welcome back. If you're new here, this is a little podcast that we do. We talk about life, death, music, the universe, and we answer your questions from social media. So if you've been here before, you'll know that it's been a minute since we last dropped an episode of Safe Mode Radio. It was something that I did during lockdown to try and promote Tigercub's second record, As Blue as Indigo, which came out on my record label, which made it even more stressful that we couldn't do any gigs or any recording stores. We couldn't even leave the fucking house to do a radio interview or anything like that. Everything was fucked and everybody sucked. So yeah, a lot has been happening in the TC world since then. We released a record in the interim, and recently now we've just started teasing a whole new record. We announced a new single, Fall In, Fall Out, and then we also thought, fuck it, let's just announce the record immediately. So we did that. We got a new album, our fourth album, which is hard to fucking believe at this point. Our fourth record, Nets to Catch the Wind, comes out 10th of April 2026, and that'll be shortly after our biggest headline show to date, and only UK show at Coco in London on the 26th of March, which is all very, very exciting. And yeah, it just felt like the right time to bring back Safe Mode Radio amidst this whole furor of activity and the brave new world of the music industry that we're in, which is totally unrecognizable from 2023. So yeah, man, today's show is awesome. I'm going to be taking your questions for the treasured, the loved, the admired, the adored, never ignored segment Answer Man. I put up a little smoke signal for you guys on Insta stories, and we got loads of really cool questions that I would consider as normal, and then after a quick prompt we got some questions which are mental. So yeah, I'm going to talk about that with you guys on the pod. I've also introduced a visual element to this in my living room. You can now look at my face gurning and grimacing and coping all the way through the pod. For your enjoyment, and that was kind of a deciding factor in toning down the vibe of Safe Mode, because yeah, you watch some of this shit back when you're going on like a lunatic, shouting, screaming, waving your arms around, and you think, look at that fucking moron. Do I really want to immortalize that on film? You know, it's like, it's one thing to have it listenable on Spotify, but it's a whole other kettle of fish to have video evidence of this shit going down. So yeah, we're gonna take it a little bit chill. We have Answer Man coming up, and then after that I've got an insane interview guest, which is something I'm going to be leaning into a lot more now on the pod. This week's guest is session drummer extraordinaire Josh Freese. Josh has played with God, like everyone basically. It is like an endless list when you dig into it, and it's a bit scary. Josh is a drummer, he's a songwriter, he's one of the most respected and in-demand session musicians, songwriters of the last 3 decades. Josh has played with Foo Fighters, 9 Inch Nails, Perfect Circle, the Vandals, the Replacements, Devo, Weezer, Guns N' Roses, Sting, and just like so many more. And many of you will already know he's appeared on like thousands of records, like so many that he's kind of lost track of some of the records that he's played on, which he sings about a little bit on his new record, Just a Minute Volume 2, which is a wicked record that came out on Loosegroove at the start of December. And yeah, we talk about that on the pod, as well as his illustrious career. So yeah, it's all going on, it's all coming up. And now I believe it is time for Answer Man. Answer Man, will answer if he understands the questions that you want to ask. But please no trigonometry or maths, it will confuse him. Answer Man will not be made a fool by you or anyone. Answer Man will take your questions now. Okay, Kev underscore Stefan Askew asks, what is your favorite American fast food? This is easy. It is Waffle House. It takes me back to our first proper US tour in 2022. We were supporting Clutch, which was sick. And it was like our first run out in America, supporting those guys. And I Hate God were the main support, who are like a legendary sludge metal band. Jimmy Bauer, the guitar player, is like it's just one of the greatest guitar tones I've ever heard in my life live. And he's also the drummer in Down, and they're just absolute like sludge metal OGs, and they're totally like loved and revered in the circles they run in. So yeah, that was wild, and it was Tigercub's first time in America. I'd been there with Nancy before. We did a couple of shows in New York for the New Colossus Festival, and then we did South by Southwest. That was in like 2019, even before all that lockdown shit happened. So yeah, for the first time, it was the first time for the band, and I think it was the first time for Jalix in America as well. So we were so excited, flying into Nashville, which is like already like landing inside of a film to us. We got picked up in the airport by our tour manager at the time, a really nice guy called Dave Rossica. It's a very normal thing in touring that like never really feels normal. You land in a foreign country and then you get into a car with a man that you've never met before, and within 48 hours you're either like best mates for life or you're just silently resenting each other for the rest of the tour. It's basically like a blind date. It's intense, and you know, all the while you're likely going to share a hotel room with this person, and at the very least you're going to be sharing a fucking car with them. And I usually sit in the front, you know, because I'm fucking big legs, so I need the leg room. And I also have small dick energy, so I need to sit in the front to just feel like the alpha, you know, that it means a lot to me, and I need it. So anyway, it's quite a while back. Luckily David was a legend, lives in Nashville. He was kind enough to like put us up in his flat so he could, you know, like unpack our gear, get our merch together, get ourselves ready, acclimatized. We weren't quite used to like the jet lag and stuff like that, and the sort of upside down feeling you get when you go on a transatlantic flight for the first time, especially to like the south of America, because it starts to like the time difference gets like quite wild. So luckily he was like really keen to show us the sights and delights of Nashville and what America has to offer. And it was just mad, like driving back the first time from the airport, driving down these like huge main streets which are like, you know, they're like 8 lanes wide. It's just impossibly big. And then in the distance, like the far distance, you have these like plinths of like capitalism in the distance. You know, you got Wendy's, you got Denny's, you got Taco Bell, McDonald's, Burger King, you know, Whataburger, all the hits, but they're just these like monolithic, like they're like fucking stars in the sky, just like hanging over in the distance. Obviously I guess they're designed to be seen from miles away, so people have time to pull off and stop, eat their high salty fried foods. So, you know, that in itself was just very different to England. You know, we don't really get that outside of like large billboards. Anyway, Dave's like, you've got to try Waffle House. It's an institution. Have you heard of it before? I was just like, no. What the fuck is Waffle House? You know, we were pretty keen on hitting up all the Guy Fieri spots. I think there's quite a few in Nashville, because a favourite pastime of mine with Jimmy is when I'm sharing a hotel room with him is just to get like Food Network on and get Triple D on in the background, just like ambiently, you know, so you can choose to just zone in, zone out as you please. So we thought it'd be fun to hit some of his spots that he recommended, you know, which he basically does every time. You know, there's never like a bad diners, drive-ins and dives, you know, it's scales never really tip that way. It's like always super positive. It's an advert basically, but it's still funny as fuck nonetheless, and it doesn't make it any less artful, you know. It doesn't mean it's not art. Anyway, so you walk into Waffle House, it's just like, to us, it's like America just encapsulated. Like open kitchen, like staff just like grinding out meals in front of you, like doing this dance performance and preparation of the meal, and like it's all done by like it's not, there's not loads of timers going off and microwaves beeping. It's just all kind of like guesstimating just through practice, which is like cool to see at like a chain thing. You got the hash browns on the hot plate, they're frying away, while making this stuff up, and it's all just coordinated and it's sick. We were just like sat there like on the bar just watching it all happen, just like whoa. So on that level, like I'm in basically. Fucking air stinks of oil, salt. You know that you're about to eat something immensely fucking gratifying, and no judgment as well. Like it's got this like constant 1 a.m. vibe. It feels like an after hours place. It's where you go to eat when you're pissed, and they're there to feed you. They're serving it up. The highly fatty fried delights for like $20 or something like that, which is just to me spiritually, it's just it's in the right place, Okay, Edmund Burgundy asks, what are your funniest mishaps on tour of the States? Which is kind of funny in a way, because tour in America is just one like giant mishap for us. Like there's nothing easy about tour in America, especially when you start factoring in like changes of presidency and stuff like that, and the rules get tighter and then they loosen, and there's a bit of an ebb and flow there, and it can be hard to plan ahead and know where you stand. It's getting into America as a band is stressful in a way that doesn't really translate unless like you've done it before. I'll do my best to try and explain it to you, but visas to start with cost like thousands, and this is before you've paid for flights, you booked your van, you've booked your hotels, you've got to time your flights right, because visas just cost thousands, and you often have to expedite your visas, which costs even more. Like flying, even like minimal stuff as well, like breakables, guitars. I fly like a 100 kilo pedal board, and like I've got this like guitar boat. It's like a sarcophagus, holds like 5 guitars, just because like Tigercub have so many weird tunings now at this stage. I never even give a fuck about tunes in the studio. I'm just like, any back end logistics, and when I'm writing I'm just like fuck that, to try and make the best thing I can at all costs. So because of that, we've ended up with this like sprawling tapestry of this fucking body of work, that are just every song's in a completely different tune. And so even with like 5 guitars, I'm still compromising. So you're looking at like a couple of hundred to fly those each way, and then if you've got like internal domestic flights within the States, like that's the same on top. So per member you could be looking at like £1,000 each just for luggage, check luggage. We did like a rock cruise in Miami, which was so sick, and then like we had to fly to California from Miami to pick up on our tour with Porno for Pyros, and we just had to face those same baggage charges, and then each time it's like a fucking point of failure, because it's check luggage, isn't it? They're like, my gear especially is like on the edge of like the weight limit. Like it's not even really like safe, I guess, for like the handlers to be lifting stuff over 100 kilos. So I'm always like within a couple of like grams of even having my stuff being allowed on the fucking plane, and like, there's just so many points of failure. That's before you even like, before you even get to like your gear arriving in the right city. Like thank God it's never happened to us, but you hear horror stories of someone's guitar getting shipped off to like Kuala Lumpur or something like that whilst they're in like Denver. It's wild. We've had like fully cancelled tours because visas didn't land in time. You know, that's just like months of planning just gone, like evaporated. Because even with the expedited visas, they still took like weeks extra to come in, you know, and you're just watching your headline tour just like shrink and disappear, you know. So there was this one time where we were supposed to start a headline tour in Columbus, Ohio. Our gear was stored in New Jersey. Billie Jean from Loosegroove Records, who we love and is a legend, kindly allowed us to store our equipment in her basement in New Jersey off the last tour that we did. So because the visas came through last minute, we had to cancel the Columbus, Ohio show, and then a couple of shows after that. Anyway, on this tour, our support band, great band called The Props, they decided to make their way up from LA to Ohio because it's so fucking far, and do some shows on the way and then meet us there. I think they did some shows in like Nebraska, you know, just fucking having a laugh, just like they're super young guys, like early 20s, like so slumming it around and getting pissed and stuff is like all that good stuff is it's just a dream come true for them, so they don't mind a bit of rough, you know. So anyway, they're slowly making their way to Ohio. News comes through to them that we're not going to make the shows. The tour's kind of hanging on a knife edge. But we have a music festival booked in Atlanta, Georgia called Shaky Knees Music Festival. So bless the Props. They were willing and offered to drive from Ohio to New Jersey, which I think is at least like a day and a half, maybe more. It's just so far away. So they drove down, picked up our gear, loaded it out of Billy's basement, and then drove all the way down from New Jersey to Atlanta to meet us at the music festival, just so like the tour didn't get completely cancelled. It was like last chance saloon sort of stuff. So meanwhile, me, Jalex, and Tom was he was depping on bass for us because Jimmy at the time had some stuff going on at work. So we're flying into Orlando, we're landing, we're playing our guitars, and all of our shit's like coming out of the conveyor belts like in one piece. So we get our guitars, get through immigration, it's fine. We rent a car, which is like more shit with insurance, who's got the right driver's license, no sleep, no rehearsal, just fucking adrenaline, blind faith. We arrive at Shaky Knees with like 5 minutes to spare. You know, like first of all, like festival sites are always kind of chaos. You got like accreditation, loading, fucking. We've also got like pull-out pedal boards and all of our equipment out of their cases, which are all kind of broken down and into pieces because you have to like pull out jack leads out of pedals and stuff because they can sometimes like get snapped off in the pedals, and you know, just with the fucking rumbling inertia of shit rattling around underneath the plane. Like anything can happen, so it's always best to kind of like dismantle and spaghettify your fucking boards and then put them back together, and you know, like retune up the strings on your guitar and different things like that. So we normally have like a rehearsal with a few days grace to do that, but given this like current visa situation, we just had zero time, and we had to make the festival like financially. When you start taking shows out of the equation, let's say you're in for 10 grand, you're doing a show, your show fee's $2,000, plus maybe you make like 1,500, $2,000 on merch that night, you know, that's fucking 4K. Budget like per show just gone, you know, like we had to get the show fee from Shaky Knees. Not going to disclose how much it was, but we needed it to kind of prop up the tour financially after like losing so many shows. So fucking last minute, we just like built all our gear back up at the festival site. You're just trying to figure out what works. There's no like power backstage, you're essentially just in a field. So you're up against the clock. So you have to sort of do all of this in public, on stage, you know, just like testing things. Oh no, this pedal hasn't switched on in front of like, you know, this crowd, there's like 5,000 people there or whatever. You know, some of them know who we are, some of them don't. But like, regardless, people are just trying to talk to us. They're watching what you're doing. They're reacting to what you're doing. It's just, you just really feel the pressure in those situations, especially like a bit jet lagged and stuff as well. You've been traveling loads, you haven't had a chance to properly like, you know, decompress. And like at the middle level that Tigercub are at, you can't really afford any crew. You've got like a TM, and maybe like a merch seller, can't afford to hire a backline tech or like anyone who can help you load your gear and set up for you, so you can get some like, you know, mental breathing space before the show. Like, we're not at that level, but luckily we did the show, everything worked. You know, it was one of those moments where like you realize like why you go through all the stress and like what you're doing it for in the first place, because it really is just like a feeling like no other, like stepping out on stage in a place that you've like maybe visited a few times, if any, and then be greeted by like 5,000 people, a proportion of which are going fucking nuts to your tunes. They're excited that you showed up, and they're enjoying what you're doing. And then there's fucking circle pits and people on each other's shoulders and shit, and everyone's fucking having it, you know, it's sick. And it's what life's about, you know. I mean, after that I got fucking blackout drunk. It was like an immediate response to like the amount of stress that I'd just been through. Just like, holy shit, like we just did that, and I now need to completely disconnect my brain and my body. I just need to fucking vanish for the next few hours and just enjoy the festival and celebrate this triumph that we fucking made it and we didn't fuck up and we're not in, you know, a shit ton of debt. And yeah, like that release is just, it's a hard switch, you know, it's very intoxicating. Hotels, like budget motels in the US is fucking Russian roulette. You know, we've walked into rooms before that are like already occupied, there's someone fucking living in there, rooms full of bed bugs, rooms that you feel like, you know, you've just walked into a scene from like The Hills Have Eyes. It's just apocalyptic, like mutant vibes, and it's not fun, and just everything's covered in shit, you know. And I genuinely believe, like, I can totally see why so many musicians struggle with like booze, alcohol dependencies, drug problems, because touring's just a different beast, you know. It's a different level of discomfort when you're on that route upwards and you don't quite have the means to, you know, do things in a certain style, a degree of comfort. Yet, you know, like when you're a bit older, like I am, you know, you're fucking tired, emotionally drained, and you know, you still have to pull yourself together and deliver a show that's like to your standard every night, you know, and try and elevate things, you know. And like after that, like obliterating yourself is like honestly like the easiest off switch, just to completely disassociate from the tasks at hand and things that you've got coming up. I mean, just to reiterate, like, I'm not complaining, it's all worth it. It's like anything, you know, that you want in life. It's hard and it's stressful to, you know, try and break through these glass ceilings and these tiers, these like sort of new difficulty levels that you reach when you're trying to sort of scale up what you're doing and move forward through life and grow, you know. But when you get shows like we did, like at Atlanta, and so many headline shows, like kind of sometimes random places where the show's sold out, and like 200 kids are there and they're so happy that you've showed up and it's all kicking off, and you just have that moment on stage where you're like the fucking guy, and it's amazing. Like the juice is worth the squeeze, you know, as they say. Okay, let's have another question. Eli Draws Weird Shit asks, you're a vampire, right? Yes, I'm a vampire. I've been a vampire my whole life. I don't have genitals, I don't eat food, I just suck blood from unwilling daywalkers at night to give me sustenance and provide me with all the nutrients I need and fuels my immortality. It's true. I am definitely going through like a sort of gothic sort of vibe at the minute. Yeah, I've always loved like The Cure and Bauhaus and Chameleons and that like kind of like art school, like post-punk vision of goth. Who else? As well as like, you know, Sisters of Mercy and like just new romantic 80s stuff in general. I'm just really fond of it. Like it's fucking vibe, you know. And you know, it's quite an easy, accessible look to have as a rock person, which I still fucking am a rock person at the ripe old age of 34. Oh, holy shit, I've been in the game too long. Okay, let's have another question. Mike Dunhart asks, if you didn't have music in your life, what else would be your calling? Well, probably I'd like to think the NBA, because the NBA tends to favor people with a height advantage. And it would be nice to go into some kind of institutionalized athletic world. Obviously, you need to be in it from very young, because there's just fucking levels to the game. And, you got levels to everything. Even in fucking Sunday League football, I realized, the difference between Sunday League football players and Saturday League football players is huge. And then when you get to a regional level, it's even more exponentially difficult, which is wild. And everyone in England's basically good at football by default, or soccer. But yeah, honestly, the route up to the Premiership, it really is this superhuman display of athleticism that is just totally off limits to normal people like me. So you've got to get in there early and be totally dedicated to it in the pursuit of greatness. So I would hope that if I didn't pick up music when I was 12 or 13, I would be in sports in some way, shape or form. And it's quite a mad thing to consider, where I'm at in my life now. I've been self-employed. I've been a self-employed musician my whole life. I've always managed to pay the bills. And so I now pay my mortgage and shit like that through writing music for TV, producing bands, DJing on the side as well. It's loads of little different things alongside, doing Nancy and Tigercub and shit like that. I've always found a way to bring the money in. And I just think about that now, fucking hell, if I had to stop, what would I be walking into? Entering the workforce as an unskilled ex-musician at 34 with a 15-year gap on his CV, Holy shit. Maybe I'll be a postman. People who work for the Royal Mail, with their little shorts on in the summer. I think that would be quite nice. Work within an institution, within a structure, but still be on your own, essentially. All right, let's have another question. To you, Ed Worthy asks, how in the world do you get your hair to stay back like that? Well, I use a hairband. It's a little thing, for those of you watching on video, just putting it up to the camera now. It's got a bit of hair on it. It's one of these guys. Very cheap, very accessible. Find them in almost any shop. Okay, it's _Donald asks, who would win in a fight, Tigercub 2015 or Tigercub 2025? Is a good question. I think 2015 Tigercub beats us fucking hands down any day of the week. Just mops the floor of us, just outclasses us in every department. The drinking was just fucking insane. Pre-sober Tigercub, it was fucking mental. We were all younger, all much hungrier for it. I was about 3 stone heavier, so I had a significant weight advantage. I wonder if I'd even be in the same weight class at this point. And yeah, man, nowadays we're all just kind of tired, chill sort of dudes. Just getting to the end of the day, getting ready to go to sleep, and looking forward to the big sleep that comes later on in life. The big, lovely, peaceful sleep of rest and no tasks to complete. I hope that answers your question. All right, what else we got? Zach _Blakey asks, Tigercub, Demob Happy, and Sick Joy for the Coco show. That would be fucking stacked. I feel it would be kind of disrespectful to ask Demob Happy to support us at Coco, because they're probably at the same level of us, if not a bit beyond, and they're totally headliners in their own right. And yeah, we've always been kind of counterparts with Demob Happy in a way, always at kind of a similar level ish. Our whole time making music and releasing records, so yeah, for that reason, and they're fucking headliners in their own right, you know. We did do a co-headline tour fucking way back in the day. I think it was 2016. We did a co-headline show at Patton's, and then we did a show in fucking Ramsgate, which was mental. It was cool. And then we like missed our show in Paris because we were piss farting around on the way to the ferry, and then the ferry fucking left without us, so we missed our Paris show, which was shit. I think we were meant to play like Supersonic or La Macaronette, I can never pronounce that, or something like that. We did a few shows in Germany, which was a really good time. We did the Blue Shell. That was actually, if I remember, I think that was the anniversary, that was when Bowie died. I remember being in some girl's apartment, and after the show in the morning, and woke up to the news that Bowie had gone. He shuffled off this mortal coil, and we just sort of sat and played Bowie songs on the acoustic guitar somewhere in Cologne, which is wild. I've forgotten about that. I remember Bless Matt was sleeping in the van every night, like he wanted to save money, so we got this like splitter van that had 3 bunks in it, and the bottom bunk was a fucking complete death trap. Like if the van crashed, I mean, you weren't supposed to be using the bunks while the van was moving, but you know, it was purely a stationary affair. But yeah, I definitely crawled into that bottom bunk from time to time, because like, you know, having a good lie down, man, like after you've had like 16 beers the night before, like a lie down is so essential in the day, especially when you've got something to do in the evening, like a fucking gig. So yeah, Matt was pretty much like camped out in the van, which I think made him quite miserable, but he had to do what he needed to do for the team to save money, so respect to him. He is a legend, and that band are legends, and yeah, Sick Joy are legends as well. I think they've got a new record coming out in March 26, and yeah, maybe we'll try and make that happen if they're up for it. Michael, the singer of Sick Joy, is he's a fellow Northerner. He happens to be from Newcastle. I'm from Sunderland. We obviously don't let that get in the way of our friendship. And yeah, I play football with him every now and again, and he's really good defender. And yeah, he keeps me up to date with what his band are up to, and I think they just done a record with Alan Johannes. I think he just like found them and was like, this is sick, let's make a record. So that's awesome for them. I can't wait to hear it. Okay, let's take another question. Beth Kings 24 asks, when will you have Dom on as a guest? I'm not sure really. I haven't even reached out to him about the pod yet. We're speaking about Dom here from a group called Nothing But Thieves. I reached out to him last year for some like songwriting help when I was making Nets to Catch the Wind, because you know, like I've made fucking loads of records at this point, and I think I made like 6 albums in my career so far. Like yeah, like 3 records with Tigercub, 2 with Nancy, plus EPs, like as well. I've made some library music albums, music for TV and sync, as well as producing as well. So I was just a bit like rang out and like getting a bit stuck in my ways, you know. So I just decided to reach out to a few people to see if they'd like be up for kicking some of my ideas about, and just see if I could unlock some new ways of like looking at songwriting. So like expand my horizons a little bit. And yeah, I reached out to Dom because I liked what he'd done with Kid Capici, and I think he'd done a track with Demob Happy, which I liked. I thought that he could be really interesting. Obviously, I'm a big fan of his band as well, fucking Nothing But Thieves. Like, it's just awesome. And very much like, you know, in our, you know, our orbit of bands that are of similar genre-ish. So yeah, and he's a legend, and we had some really sweet chats on the phone. Definitely my kind of person, very easy to talk to, and like kind of just like the same things, you know. We're just talking about Queens of the Stone Age and Eric Valentine, shit like that, you know. But yeah, he gave me some really, really useful tips on songwriting, and had quite a large hand in a track we have on Nets to Catch the Wind called Stuck in the Melancholy, which is it's this cool tune. I love it so much. It sounds a little bit like, in my head at least, it sounds a bit like No Doubt crossed with like Hash Pipe by Weezer. It's like really straightforward driving. It's really cool though, like super melody driven, super simple chords, but the melody's all over the place. It's got this really cool sentiment. Anyway, yeah, I'd love to have Dom on as a guest if he'd be up for it. I'll drop him a text and see if he'll speak to me, you know, because that's all I've been doing really. You know, I mean, with Josh Freese, I just asked Stone if he'd be up for texting Josh, obviously because those two are friends, and I think Josh like auditioned to be in Pearl Jam back in the day, and yeah, they're super tight buddies, and Stone fortunately was happy to reach out on my behalf and ask Josh if he'd want to talk on my fucking podcast, which is so sick. And I remember like at the time I got this like screenshotted message back from Stone, and like Josh was like on a flight with the Weezer guys, like en route to South America to go and do some shows. Like they're talking about drum machines together or something like that, and I was like, whoa, that's mental. And yeah, he said he'd love to do my podcast, and he's available next week or whatever, so it was quite nice to be a part of that conversation in a very small way. I'm that sycophantic. Okay, let's do one more. Implicit Demand asks, how do you come up with the sexiest riffs ever? Like, is that influences or musical wizardry? Well, I would love to gatekeep and say that, yeah, it's all just fucking, you know, it just comes to me from God. God emits a signal, and I am the antenna that just soaks up the gospel, you know, like that fucking mental Rick Rubin thing, which is like signaling that you're this like spiritual genius. I do actually like loads of Rick Rubin's philosophy and his records, so I don't know why I've decided to send for him, fucking call him out like that. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, I mean, like fucking Led Zeppelin, like I'd say like Heartbreaker, Moby Dick, The Ocean, No Quarter, like that's it. Like I'm just trying to get close to those like cool, natty, kind of thin, winding, mellifluous riffs that are like, which I just think's amazing. But yeah, like I mentioned, like Sabbath, Tony Iommi, Hendrix, obviously. Like I really like the Band of Gypsies era stuff, obviously like Axis Bold of Love, Electric Ladyland, Jimi Hendrix Experience and stuff. But yeah, like tracks like Isabella, it's just fucking so cool, man. It's such a good vibe. And just like a general love for like chromaticism, like through Chopin, like figuring out the nocturnes and understanding like how Chopin uses like the chromatic scale to dictate where he's like led in his chord progressions rather than like keys or modes, you know. That really opened up everything. I discovered this song by a group called Blonde Redhead called For the Damaged Coda, and then I realized that was actually a cover of a Chopin track. I think it's like Op number 9. It's a cover of, and I was like, oh my god, this is like Interpol, you know, like Beatles. This is just, there's depth here, and this kicks the shit out of anything that's knocking around at the minute. Obviously it was like from back in the day. I heard it on like a Rick and Morty show. Anyway, that led me to Chopin, and fucking changed my life, man. So yeah. And then obviously there's like groups like Queens of the Stone Age, who's like such an influential band now at this point. Like I can't think of a rock band that's about at the minute that like isn't in some way influenced by Queens. Just like hugely transformational band. And then obviously after that you've got like Them Crooked Vultures, who are taking the Zeppelin thing. Obviously like John Paul Jones is fucking in the band. but they're taking the Zeppelin thing, the Queens thing, and like what Dave Grohl brings to the table, and just like elevating that even further, you know, which is so sick. And then like some buddies, like people from the local Brighton scene, like Mike and Ben from Raw Blood, like just always loved what he was doing. Just a fucking good time, you know, just cranking out the riffs. And it was so amazing to watch them blow up in the way that they did, because we toured with them in 2014, and that was right after Figure It Out. It just came out, and they were like on the BBC Sound of like 2014 end of year list, which was like super crucial then. If you got on that, it was like a huge deal. And they had this show at Finsbury Park supporting the Arctic Monkeys, and like everything was just building up to that. And after that they had the Glastonbury performance, and they just became the biggest band in the world. It's fucking mental, man. And then Mike very kindly spoke about Tigercub a lot in the press. Like, she would always name drop us in the NME, and we ended up getting a deal off the back of it, man. It's like super important group for Tigercub's story. So very grateful to them for that, for giving us a shot. Okay, let's have one more question, and then we'll move on to our interview with Josh Freese. Race teacher Ed Worthy asks, how does Nets to Catch the Wind compare to your other albums in terms of sound, heaviness, and emotion? Thank you for your question. I think with Nets to Catch the Wind, I kind of went back to basics, and like just went back to acoustic guitar, top line, notepad, voice memos, and that was like my ultimate, you know, starting point, because like I found on other records I was like fully demoing tracks. I was like writing the track as I demo it, so you know, I just found like I was getting so much feedback from the computer in a figurative sense, from like, you know, if the snare drum, the compression on the snare drum's really hyped, it would just like influence the way that I write, and it shifted my focus over to like purely riffs and purely like drums and stuff like that, and the vibe. And I felt like I was starting to miss the song a little bit, and I also felt like lyrics was something that I hadn't fully conquered yet. Like I feel like on The Perfume of Decay I kind of sort of like put my stamp as a guitarist out in the world, like that this is what I'm capable of. And it was just a really guitar forward record, and I had this idea that like if I sang like kind of Elliott Smith over the top of this like thunderous live band, it would be sick, which I still stand behind. But you know, on this record I wanted to take a different approach and just really try and get back to the song. So you know, I was just listening to like a lot of like Beatles, early Beatles, Hard Day's Night, and Paul McCartney, like Ram, Jeff Buckley, and just a lot of stuff from that like sort of late 90s, early noughties, like British wave of just songwriters, I guess. So I just wanted to get back to that. You know, just like tracks like California Soul by Marlena Shaw. It's obviously like, you know, it's an old, I think it's from the 70s, an old soul tune. You know, that song would function with any arrangement. You could listen to that through a fucking potato and still be moved by it, because fundamentally the harmony and the melody and the sentiment is so fully realized and like just great. And that was something I wanted to try and, you know, get close to, and I felt like, you know, that was a different approach to what we did on The Perfume of Decay, and maybe I could, you know, find something different and just inspired ultimately, because my first round of demos, when I started writing, just putting stuff together before I decided to just strip it back, they sounded uninspired, and they sounded a lot like other bands, you know, and I felt like I was sort of wearing that as a mask a little bit. So it's all just like a pursuit of like reconnecting with something like raw and true, and like something that like AI can't do yet, at least. So I thought that would be a good move with this, you know, with this record, because yeah, like going back to the Perfume of Decay, like I view that as like quite a produced album, which I produced, and I almost like used the studio as like an extra instrument in itself, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's just that's what was right for that record. But for this record, I want to do the opposite of that. So it's more like I just wanted to go work with the band with these songs and like make something really special happen in a great sounding room, as opposed to relying on too much like post-production, I guess. Sort of like the Michel Gondry thing, where it's like he uses a lot of in-camera effects as opposed to any sort of CGI or post processing, and it's just the result and the outcome is just so much more organic and like ultimately powerful. It drives the narrative in just a much more effective way. It's harder to do, but yeah, I wanted a piece of that, you know. So yeah, I would classify Nets to Catch the Wind as like quite a raw human record. You know, obviously it's still maximalist and everything, but you know, Dalgo's at the fucking wheel. Tom Dalgety produces record, and you know, he still fucking turned it up to 11, you know, so it still hits in the same way. It's just like using less elements, and I guess the trick when recording was like, how do we make it sound large without just piling on loads of overdubs, which was a cool limitation to have, you know. So yeah, recorded at Rockfield Studios, which is legendary. Some like colossal records have been made there. It kind of speaks for itself. And it's our first record that we've made outside of Brighton Electric Studios, which is our bass player Jimmy's studio, which is an amazing studio, and like amazing records have been made there. But this time, you know, we went to Monmouth and Wales and fucking banged it out in Rockfield, you know, which was so sick. I mean, at the time, it was during the Oasis, the first Oasis reunion shows, which were happening in Cardiff at the time, which is not far away from Monmouth. So like, yeah, like Oasis producer dropped in just to fucking hang out for a little bit, and there was loads of, yeah, like a lot of tourism happening during our sessions, because people just like rock up there and just ask for a tour, and they're so sweet at Rockfield. Sally and everyone that runs that place, you know, they just run it still like a kind of, you know, it's like home. It's really cool. And then obviously the Black Sabbath final shows were happening in Birmingham around then as well. So the spirit of that and the magic of that and the nostalgia of that really, you know, crept into those sessions, because obviously Black Sabbath had like rehearsed loads at Rockfield. I'm not actually fully sure like what they recorded at Rockfield, but there's loads of stories of like, yeah, Ozzy staying in this certain specific part of the chalets that you get, because it's a residential studio. It's like one of the first, I think it was the first ever residential studio, which basically means that you stay there overnight, you don't leave the studio, you fucking, so you're really contained as a little unit, and then you go to bed, wake up fucking down the road to the studio again, you know, kind of like a B&B. Okay, I think that'll do it. Without further ado, this is my interview with Josh Freese. Enjoy.
Interviews are things that you can listen to, with people talking. Interviews, questions and answers with factual responses. Let's listen.
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm out in the desert. I'm out in Palm Springs, where
we have a place where we come out to a lot, and we come out here most times around the holidays. We get out here a lot. You know, of course, it's Thanksgiving here in the States tomorrow, so that's just, you know, whatever. I'm out here taking some time off, and I should go to Australia next week. But for now, I'm sitting in one spot and not doing a whole lot for the next few days. So,
have you been to Brighton before?
Oh yeah. I've been there many times. Yeah, I've been there. I mean, I remember memorable shows there with the Vandals and with Devo, and I'm sure I've been there maybe either with the Perfect Circle or Nine Inch Nails or something, but definitely the Vandals and Devo over the years a few times. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. What did you think of Brighton?
Well, you know, it's funny. I have a funny memory of Brighton. One of the first times I went there, the Vandals were playing there, and I couldn't tell you where it was, but it was a club, and it was up like right across from the beach, right across from the water. And I remember at sound check time, there was I had just been on the cover of Modern Drummer magazine for the first time, and there I had like a fan at sound check, some young guy waiting outside the club for me to sign this Modern Drummer magazine. And as I'm signing it, I was like, yeah, I'll give you an autograph. And I'm signing my magazine. I'm on the cover of this. Right when I start signing it, a fucking bird shits all over my shoulder. I got shat on. Yeah. And it was this funny moment. It was this great moment where it really put me back in my place. Like if I was thinking that I was a hot shot right at that moment, I got the universe, you know, the universe
brought you back down to earth.
Brought me back down to earth. Made sure that I realized that, you know, I wasn't that big of a deal after all. You know.
Yeah, the seagulls in Brighton, they're pests, and they're in abundance.
Another time, Devo was playing there, and after sound check, I forget what the name of the hotel. I think it used to be a Hilton. It's probably been a bunch of things over the years, but there's a. Yeah, we were there, and after sound check, Mark Mothersbaugh, the singer, who's like almost legally blind without his glasses, he was taking a nap after sound check, and he woke up to, he heard something in his room, and he woke up, and as he's trying to grab his glasses on the side of the bed, he sees there's a blurry like figure like running across his room, and someone had broken into his room and stole his laptop like in front of him, basically, like as he's taking a nap at 4 p.m.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's what.
It's fucking
what
crazy.
was on that laptop?
Who knows? I don't know. But it was like, holy shit, that's bizarre. It takes balls, man, to fucking show up right in front of somebody. Luckily, he could barely see. I mean, luckily for the guy, he could barely see, but he was like going for his glasses, and, you know, anyways. But the Replacements of Devo are two bands that I still can stand behind and still am a big fan of all these years later, you know, and have gotten the good fortune and chance to play with both of those bands. Just, you know, however the hell I manifested that.
It's amazing.
Did.
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty wild, you know.
How did it feel to like step into the fold there and get amongst that, be part of their lineage?
Well, you know, I was such a fan growing up that, you know, I used to just dream of meeting the guys in Devo, let alone being their drummer for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because Devo, when I learned about him, it was when the Freedom of Choice album was out, and Whip It was a huge hit, and it was so kind of it was a great song, but it was so kind of kitschy and you know, it was hooky, but it was kind of fun and silly in a way, you know. And then I realized, holy shit, now this band goes so much deeper than that. And also, if you caught them for the first time around the Freedom of Choice or Oh No It's Devo era, it started getting sort of, even though Freedom of Choice it's got live drums on it, but the drums are so tight and they're so simple that it sounds like a machine, but it's not. Like, that's not a drum machine. It sounds like a drum machine, but it's not. And but you go back and listen to those first two records and realize, they had some pretty kind of rock and roll things and punk rock things about them, and they got put in the punk rock category because no one knew what to do with them. They were so fucking weird. Yeah, that they're like, well, we'll call them punk rock because they're really weird. They're kind of subversive and smart asses. So but I mean, it was literally a dream come true getting to work with those guys.
Oh man, I bet it's just like it's beyond words, really. Getting the two of them and. I guess you become friends with them and they're just like family now, right?
It's funny, we just explained to our son who's coming out to Palm Springs, we originally were having Thanksgiving tomorrow with Mark Mothersbaugh and his family, but he was trying to get out of LA to not have to have a bunch of guests over and stuff. So we're going to get together and have dessert or something tomorrow night with them. But we just explained to our kids, we're going to Mark's house still, right? We're like, no, we're actually going to hang it out at our house, but we're going to meet up with them tomorrow night or the next day we'll go over and have lunch. But yeah, they are literally like family, That's
wild. That's wild for someone on the other side, for that to be so casual is really amazing.
Well, that's the thing. If you told me that was going to be casual, if you told me that 30, 40 years ago, I'd go, you're nuts. But, but the fact that it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we're going to Mark's. Okay, I guess we're not going to, well, we're still going to go to Mark's. Yeah, it is very, very casual at this point, So I still have to kind of pinch myself once in a while,
That's so awesome. And obviously we have a mutual friend in Stone who helped set this interview up. He kindly reached out to you on my behalf.
Yeah. I've been buddies with Stone for over 30 years now. I met him around 93, 94, and we just remained friends through all of it. There's people you meet along the way, and then you have friendships with, and sometimes they die down or you grow apart or whatever. We've always remained allies, and Stone's always been one of my biggest cheerleaders. He's so sweet. No matter who I'm working with, he's like, make sure they're paying you more. You gotta get this. They're make sure they're taking care of you.
Totally. He has my back, and he just checks in. That's what's nice about him. People don't always check in.
Yeah, he's always been a bit of a musical philanthropist, He's always been, very supportive of people, big bands and small bands, especially the smaller bands that he likes that might need that help or that push, or the guy from Pearl Jam telling other people how great this band or that band is. It's it's really nice to have him on your side, and he says great things about you guys,
That's really sweet to hear. He actually shared with me that when he texted you were on a flight with some of the Weezer guys en route to do some shows in South America.
Yeah, we did 3 gigs down there.
How was that?
It's great. I've worked with Weezer for 3 years between 2009 and the end of 2011 or 12, because they have a drummer, Pat Wilson, but they're an odd band, and Pat at the time was wanting to play guitar. He loves playing guitar, and Rivers kind of didn't want to play guitar for a bit. So Rivers how about I just sing, and we'll see if Josh is around to play drums, and I was, and so I went out and played with them, and it was great. And then they went back to their regular 4-piece setup. And then just about, 4 or 5 months ago, Pat called me and goes, hey man, it's would you be into doing some shows with us again? I said, sure. So I did 3 shows in South America, 1 in Mexico City, and I'm going to Australia with them a week from today to go do 3 gigs down there.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And how did you find I'm sure you've been to South America a lot, but I think I read that it was maybe their first time in Argentina, or they were touching ground in a country in South America for the first time ever.
Sure, it was, you know what? I think maybe they played Sao Paulo once, but no, they played Rio before, but I want to say they'd never been to Sao Paulo or Buenos Aires, Argentina, or Chile. We played in Santiago. And I was kind of blown away. I was like, really? You guys, I figured you guys have been down here a bunch, you know? I've been down there a bunch over the years, whether it be with everyone from the Vandals to Sting to Nine Inch Nails, you know, I've been down there a handful of times. And yeah, it really surprised me that they hadn't been down there before. The audiences are definitely enthusiastic. And I remember talking to a kid once there a couple of years ago outside of a hotel or something. And he said one reason why fans are so over the top and excited when bands come down there is that a lot of times kind of corrupt promoters and people will start promoting a show before it's everything's taken care of and it's all set. And so they said half the time they'll be planning on a band coming down there and then the band ends up not coming down there. And that happens often. So when bands finally do come down there and they get to go see said band that they're excited about seeing, that's why they're extra hyped about it, you know, because they never know if it's really going to happen or not. So when it does happen, they're really excited. Yeah, you can imagine.
Yeah, man, that's kind of cruel, but I guess like the outcome is.
So when you finally do get down there, everyone's really excited to see you.
Because you did some shows with Nine Inch Nails. That's quite a switch of like dark industrial music to kind of power pop.
Oh, it's so different, yeah. And I've always enjoyed doing that, working with bands that are pretty different from one another. It's funny because sometimes people say, "Oh, Josh, he plays all these different styles," and it's always like, well, it's not like I'm playing in a hardcore jazz bebop group one day and then a metal band. Yeah, it's like it's all under what I call it under the pop umbrella, which is, you know, it's all kind of pop music, and sometimes it's more aggressive and faster and more hardcore, and sometimes it's slower and a little bit more tongue in cheek, lighthearted. But you know, I worked with Nine Inch Nails back between 2005 and 2009, and really liked working with Trent because he's such a serious dude, and he takes all of it so seriously and works so hard on every aspect of his music and the shows and the presentation and the whole thing, that the only reason I stopped working with him in 2009 is at the time I was the only one in the band with kids. My wife and I, we had 2 boys and we were having a 3rd kid, and I was trying to stay off the road. So, you know, I left just because Nine Inch Nails was touring so much of the time. I said, man, I need to be home for a bit. And so I left on good terms. I wasn't leaving because I was pissed, or I wasn't leaving because someone else made me a better offer, or some reason that Trent would hate me. You know, he's like, hey, man, I'm sorry to see you go, but I totally get it. And that's a noble, you know, honorable reason to need to leave the band. You know, I had nothing else lined up. And
that's very graceful of him. It must have been a bit scary for you.
Yeah, it's hard, you know, it's hard. And I continue to try and find that balance. You know, my kids are all kind of, you know, grown up, meaning the youngest just turned 15 and the oldest is 24. And, but they're funny. They kind of need me around just as much, or even maybe more now, meaning as teenagers. I used to think, well, once they get a little bit older, they can dress themselves and feed themselves and all this stuff. It'll be much easier to go on tour. But the flip side of that is when they're really young, they really don't have too many obstacles to overcome. They're still going to like preschool and kindergarten and finger painting and playing games, and they don't have real life stuff happen. They're not going through breakups yet, or they're not getting you know, in trouble at their job, or you know, or whatever. You know, now they have these kind of like young adult obstacles to maneuver around. So it's just as important. Yeah,
it's still the same but different.
Yeah, just different sets of things to navigate and help them get through, you know.
I love that. Now I've had pretty wild. Like, let's keep going. Great.
What's funny, when we had one, we were like, holy shit, this is crazy. And we'd be out somewhere, we'd see a family with 2 or 3 or 4, and we'd be like, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah.
You know, but you just do, you know, you just do.
So, let's talk about your new album,
Yeah.
Just a Minute, Volume 2, which is sick.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, I got a sneak preview, and I've been hammering it. It's so good. I just I love the concept, but I do wish the songs were longer. I feel like I'm kind of edging the whole record.
Well, I know it's like some of the songs, like, I wish I made this into a 3-minute song and not a 1-minute song. But you know, it was a fun kind of concept and exercise to do. And honestly, this record wouldn't have happened at all if it wasn't for Stone Gossard, because I've made records before, and years ago I used to, make records in hopes of, oh, maybe I'll get it on the radio, or maybe I'll sell a bunch of records and this and that.
Yeah.
That never really happened for me as a solo artist, which is fine. I also never have done a single show or toured or done any real work to do it for real. But just as a songwriter and as someone being creative, it was always fun for me to make records. And during the pandemic, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was just, I'm going to write some 1-minute songs just for fun, just as an exercise. It's going to be a lot less daunting than, I've got to write a song that's going to have an intro and a verse and a pre-chorus and a bridge and a this and that. And I went, I'm going to write these really simple, easy little 60-second songs, and I'm going to make funny little videos, and I'm going to put them up on Instagram, and that'll be it. And I remember working on something one morning going, God, I'm really having fun. I'm enjoying just the process of writing and recording and being creative. And I was thinking, God, I don't care if anyone ever hears this, and I don't care if I ever make a dime from it or any of that stuff. I'm just going to do this for me. And I ended up sending Stone a song just as a friend that I would send songs to, because at the time Loosegroove hadn't done a reboot yet, or at least I wasn't aware of it. And so I go send Stone a song, go check out the song. And he goes, oh, I love it. Let me put it out. I said, well, what do you mean? And he goes, well, yeah, I'm doing Loosegroove again. We're doing a reboot of Loosegroove, and let's make a record. It's like, oh shit, okay. And so I've got all these 1-minute songs. I'm writing more. And he goes, yeah, let's do it. We can, we can chop it up into 2 different albums if you want. And if I wasn't as busy as I am, and or was procrastinating at all, I would have had that second record out a lot sooner, because I put the first one out in 2021. But it's like, between my career as a drummer and being a father and all this stuff, I just sometimes go, God, I don't have the time. And because I didn't need to do it, it was just easy to put off, and then I was like, I got to put this thing out, Well,
I'm glad you did, because it's just a really interesting snapshot into, and the music videos as well, which are fucking mental, especially the Cybertruck one. It's so insane, but it's such a good I don't know, it's a really nice angle to look at you from as an artist, and it's just also really good. It really fucking bangs. And I was interested, did you play guitar on it?
Yeah. I basically play everything on it, except once in a while there's a song that might have someone playing a guitar solo kind of thing, or something that might, there'll be 4 or 5 songs in a row that's all me, and then maybe the 5th song is all me, except there's an extra guitar player on it, or my brother playing saxophone on a song or 2, or there's things like that. So I've got a handful of people that are on it, probably 5 or 6 friends that each do a small little thing here or there, but for the most part it's me.
Cool. It's the guitar tones. I'm a guitar player, so I thought it would just be a hilarious thing to talk to you about guitar playing, because it would annoy so many drummers probably, but it's the guitar tones are great, and I love the chromatic riffs that you do, and the chords and stuff. But the tone's really nice. It's really satisfying.
Oh, thanks. It's funny because all of it's just direct. I'm not using any amps, and I I know it doesn't sound very purist or cool to say that, but it's like I'm just at home, kind of almost like I'm doing demos and then turning them into songs eventually, or actual master recordings. But there's very little time spent on getting tones of any kind. I mean, some of the vocals are me singing into my laptop,
There's fucking one song that's like, I don't know if it's a callback to Volume 1 or something, but are you playing like a tape recording of someone going insane or something? It's almost like someone speaking in tongues. It's really funny.
It's funny you said that. I got to tell you something. That song in particular kind of was a moment that I had before I knew I was making a record. I was just writing these 1-minute songs. When I was at home one day and I was recording that song, it's an instrumental.
Is it Burden?
Yeah, it's a song called Burden. And it started with this simple, me playing this rhythm on a keyboard of this timpani sample, going doot 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 doot, this stupid thing with some distortion on it, and then I'm playing this beat, and it's kind of like sort of like a Butthole Surfers, just like art piece. And while I was doing it, I went online and I searched up like some like radicalist chant things, like people freaking out and like screaming and shouting and stuff. And it was some weird, I won't even tell you which religions, but there's some religious like freak out chant things. And and I took the microphone and I stuck it up to my phone. It was on YouTube, and I just recorded it straight off of YouTube, and then chopped it up and did different stuff with it. But yeah, it's none of that's me. It's all people that I couldn't tell you who they are, and I'll never meet. But yeah, it's people freaking out and screaming and yelling and shit. It's really fucking. And I remember that was a moment. That was the exact moment. It's funny you said that. But I remember being at home recording, going, you know what? I'm loving doing this, and this is so much fun, and I don't expect to ever have this song see the light of day or make a single dime from it or any of that. All I know is that right now I'm amusing myself doing this at home and just being creative and having a good time. And if I can make myself laugh, or if I can make myself go, oh my God, this is crazy, I'm loving this, then great. Even if it's just for that time and place, just really being present and going, I'm not looking down the road to any means to an end here. There's no goal with this. And this is before I thought I was making a record or Stone was going to want to put out or any of that stuff. I was just like, this is going to be a fun little art piece. And then, it ended up here we are talking about it, and it's on a record.
It's so good. I think there's a kind of magic to that, which gives it this life to it. It's just so free. And making records commercially is like, it's almost like this oxymoron, because you've got to sort of hold artistic purity and naivety in one part of your brain, and then the other side is like, oh fuck, people are going to hear this, they might compare it to something I've done before, and those two forces just, they kind of ruin each other's lives, so
absolutely. While I was doing this, I at one point just a couple of years ago, and after my first record of Volume 1 was already out, I think I mentioned earlier that 20 years ago when I'd make a solo record, I was like, oh, I'm going to try and get on the radio, I'm going to try and do this. And then when that wasn't happening, I went, okay, I'm going to make these records just for fun. And if anyone likes it and wants to hear it, great. And if not, that's fine. They're these time capsules that'll live on forever, right? And and so I gave up on trying to write a song that might be on the radio or something, and not worrying about that. And then I heard a podcast with Rick Rubin a couple of years ago, and when he said this, it really resonated with me, which was, he said, when you're doing music or doing any sort of art, he said, you should be the audience and make things that you like, whether it's a painting or a photograph or music or a poem. Do whatever you like. Do the things that you want to see or want to hear. And if other people pick up on that, then great. If it resonates with them, great. And if not, oh well. But if you're enjoying doing it and it's coming from the most pure place that it could come from, then there you go. You've done your job as an artist. And that's how I feel with this stuff. It's like, the shit's all over the map. But, so is some of the music that I like. And there's stuff on this record, like that track that sounds like an out of control Butthole Surfer song. And there's, a song that might sound like Black Flag. And then the next song is like a piano instrumental,
Yeah. Oh, like a blues sort of tune.
Yeah. There's a silly blues song on there called Miserable. And it's like, it's just kind of all over the map, almost like a band like Ween would do, They're similar. They might have a song that's really fucked up and funny, and then they'll have a song that's really serious. And then it's kind of funny in the way when they do the serious song, that's kind of confusing too. You don't know if they're taking the piss or not,
Yeah.
And
that's a lovely space to inhabit, isn't it? Just in between.
Exactly.
There is a track on this record called Wasted with the Ween, which there has to be a drinking story in there.
Oh yeah, no, you know what? I've got a video that I'm putting up on Instagram and on YouTube day after tomorrow. It's going to come out on Friday, and I made this video for it. And it's a true story about in 2002 when I flew to New Hope, Pennsylvania, where they're from. Their drummer Claude had gotten in a really bad car accident, and so I flew out there to do a couple of benefit shows, playing drums with them to raise money for Claude, who of course didn't have any sort of health insurance, and so I went out there to play some shows with them, and while I was out there, they were in the middle of making their album, Quebec, and I ended up playing drums on 4 or 5 songs on the record. But when I was there, the first night I got there, we went down to there's one bar in town called John and Peter's, and that's where they've always played their like unannounced shows, and they're just always down there jamming. You can walk there from their homes, and
no way.
And and so we went to John and Peter's and just drank so much, and I ate so much, and it was October 2002, 23 years ago, and that's the last time I ever vomited from drinking. I went back to the hotel. I was so fucked up and just sat there praying, just spinning in my bed going, don't throw up. And I just basically ruined the entire room where I had to change. It wasn't like I had someone clean it up. I had to change rooms the next day because it was
shit.
And I don't know if they got stuck with the cleaning bill or not, but it was like, I think I've thrown up 3 times in the last like 30 or 40 years. So whenever it does happen, knock on wood, I don't want to happen anytime soon. But when it happens, oh my God, it's like a fire hose is turned on and just sprays for miles around. It's like the scene in the Monty Python Meaning of Life movie.
Yeah.
When a guy destroys the whole restaurant with vomit, So
that's fucking crazy.
That's that story. And the only reason the name is Wasted with the Ween is my friends and I used to jokingly call them the Ween because there was a bad Saturday Night Live spin-off film in the 90s called It's Pat, and Ween's in the movie, and Ross' character It's Pat keeps on telling people. There's some scene where he accidentally is on stage with them and he plays with them, and for the next like 10 minutes in the film, he keeps on telling people, he goes, I played with the Ween. I jammed with the Ween. He keeps on calling them the Ween, which I'm a big enough fan to know they're not called the Ween, but I refer to them as the Ween anyways, maybe because it worked out rhythmically or syllable wise when writing
Wasted
songs.
with the Ween.
Yeah.
It checks out. It makes sense.
Yeah.
We got absolutely wasted and fucking coated off a hotel room. It's so good.
Yeah. You got to see the video. I'm going to put it up in 2 days. You'll laugh. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll be waiting patiently for that.
Nice.
Just also like somehow I like Lou Reed.
Yeah.
Caught my attention because
I'm
I'm a huge Lou Reed fan, but he's a very complex. He's a complex guy.
I think fans of Lou Reed and people that don't like Lou, I think anyone could appreciate that title or see where I'm coming from. I have a T-shirt that I had made that says "Somehow I Like Lou Reed," and whenever I wear it, people crack up. They're like, "Where'd you get that? What does that shirt mean? What is that?" And it's funny when I ran into this old school Rolling Stone journalist, this guy named David Frick, who's been there forever. And yeah. And I was wearing the shirt somewhere at a festival, and he came up to me and goes, I was friends with Lou Reed. I said, oh, really? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, and I think you would have liked that shirt. You know, it's like I love Lou Reed, and then there's sometimes I'll hear something and go, God damn, that is so shameless. I can't believe he's rhyming that word with that word. That's horrible. And then I go, God, but he's got the balls to just do it and move on and commit and not make apologies for it. And there's something really punk rock about that, you know?
Oh, totally. Like his aggression and like just dissatisfaction with his audience.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I used to get obsessed with his interviews, like especially the Australian ones, where he's just fucking
such a prick.
He's just bodying people left, right, and just being so horrible.
Yeah,
there's something so magnetic about it. I mean,
I hear him play guitar on something, I'll go, God, I can't believe he kept that solo. That's what he's calling a guitar. That's horrible. And then I go, but fucking right on, you know?
Dude, it makes my heart sing. I love it.
I do appreciate that spirit for sure.
Yeah, man. Like my favorite guitar solo of all time is the one from Boredom by the Buzzcocks. You know that tune?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's just the most perfect guitar solo ever. Yeah. You know, it's exactly, and it won Little of Save.
Absolutely.
As does Lou Reed. Did you ever listen to that record he did with Metallica?
You know what's funny? I was just talking about it with someone the other day. I haven't heard it, but I will say, well, a couple things. All I hear is bad things. I've never heard somebody say they liked it, and who knows? Maybe I'd hear it and like it.
It's really funny.
But what I do like is I was walking around listening to a Mark Maron, the podcast he does, and he had James Hetfield on there. And I was walking around on tour somewhere a couple of years ago, listening to this James Hetfield interview. And I never listened to a James Hetfield like in-depth interview, and it was interesting. So I was listening to it. And what I liked is that he said when they went in the studio with him, they'd do a song and they'd kind of like just stumble through it, and he'd be like, "Okay, next song," and they'd be like, whoa, we gotta like fix that. And he's like, nope, that was a time and place, that's how we did it, that's how that song is supposed to sound. And same thing, like James is going, holy shit, like we can't do that, like we gotta go fix this and fix that, and we gotta play it better. And he's like, nope, that's it, let's move on. And like, okay,
see,
you know,
I get it. Like that's a perspective that is interesting to see, like Metallica naked, like creatively naked. Like, no, that's it. Like that's how you did it right then. That was a photograph.
I should go listen to that thing. Yeah, I've never heard it, and I've always been like, yeah, I don't want to hear it. I heard it sucks, but I might just go listen to it just for just out of curiosity, you know, to check it out.
Give it a go. If you approach it with a sense of humor, it totally clicks. And like approach it from the way you view like things that people make. It's just a really interesting thing that was made. If you go into it with like cast aspersions on it, there's going to be some kind of like Metallica featuring Lou Reed sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just not.
Of course,
it's something completely different, which is it's just fucking hilarious. I love it so much.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out at some point, and of course, I'll go into it with that mindset. You know,
I would definitely recommend that. Yeah, and like just one other thing that your record made me think is like, it feels like there's a creativity in like how you would, like for want of a better term, like sort of market the record, because there's just this aspect to it. There's this immediate talking point that's like baked into the actual music. It's like just a minute, everything's a minute long, and I've just seen that like you've done a few other things like that in the past with other solo records. Like, wasn't there one where like you put a record on sale for like $75,000 or something like that, and like had loads of different like merch items that were like it's like lasagna and stuff.
In 2009 I did that, where I released all these ridiculous price tier direct to fan experience things early on, before many people had done stuff like that yet, you know. And what was crazy is, well, really what I set out to do, I did, which was I just wanted a lot of people to talk about it. Even if they didn't buy these things, I wanted people to go, oh my God, you see what this guy's doing? What the fuck? You know? And in the end, I actually sold a lot of them. And I actually made a lot of money from doing those. Of course, the most expensive one, which was $75,000, I didn't sell that one, and I never expected to sell that one. But I mean, the day I put it up for sale, the next one in line, the second most expensive one, was for $20,000, And the day it went up for sale, I sold it immediately. Someone bought it from Florida and flew out here. And
Wild.
it was basically attached to the hip with me for about a week. And, you know, we not only did I do all this stuff with this guy, and he got to do all these different experiences and got all these, you know, a shitload of merch and different things and drums and, you know, whatever. But I really, when I realized, holy shit, this guy's really paying for this, I really went above and beyond as far as I made sure that I didn't want him flying home going, man, what a ripoff. He kind of like,
Yeah,
went down this list real quick, and then he dropped me off at the airport and told me to get fucked. And, you know, I really went out of my way to go, okay, I got to make sure, you know, like for instance,
Lou Reed would have done that. You'd just been like, yeah, bro.
yeah, exactly. But like the first day that this guy was here that flew in, like we weren't supposed to start doing stuff until the following day, but I was in the studio that afternoon making a record with Slash. And this guy obviously was a music fan. And I said, hey, you want to, you know, come with me to the studio and hang out with Slash all afternoon and watch us record? And I was like, hell yeah. So there was, you know, and then the following night, he was also a big Perfect Circle and Tool fan. And Maynard's group, Pussifer, was about to do their first show. I said, hey, you want to go down and see Pussifer? You can meet Maynard and, you know, Danny, Carey, and Justin, the bassist and Tool. They were there hanging around. So all of a sudden, it's like, wow, I'm hanging out with the Tool guys. That wasn't on the list, but great. I wanted to make sure that he got his money's worth.
That's really nice of you. Yeah, imagine it's like almost like, oh shit, I've got to deliver on this now. Like,
Exactly.
A silly thing. Did a little deep dive, checked it out as well, and
yeah, it was fun.
Really
it was a fun experiment.
Do you think about that kind of thing, like how music sort of reaches people? Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't in the way that there's so much of it out there and everywhere. It's like, you know, I mean, like I feel like, you know, it gets a bit overwhelming, you know, and so I just kind of do what I do and kind of keep my head down and try and not make eye contact with the wrong people and push forward and try and be as honest as I can be with what I'm doing and as friendly as I can be to people that I'm doing it with or coming across, because, you know, when you're out there and you're crossing paths with whether it's people from other bands or fans, everyone's going to walk away with a story or an experience. And it's like, I would much rather have them walk away and go, that was really cool. That guy didn't have to be so nice to us, but he was really cool. Instead of, you know, what a dickhead. You know, there's enough dickheads out there.
Totally. You don't want to be that guy. And that really, like, sort of serendipitously quite full circle with what you were talking about at the start of this chat, like being in Brighton, just being like, you know, you're the hot shot guy on the cover of Modern Drummer, and then a seagull just shits all over you in front of a fan. You know? It
was great. It was really funny. I mean, here I am. I'm still talking about it 25 years later.
Yeah.
But when I went down, it made me laugh. I didn't like get flustered or angry. If anything, I couldn't stop laughing. Right. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was like, wow, what timing. Just when I think I'm hot shit, this thing craps all over me. It's awesome. Brought me right back down. It was awesome.
Little did that seagull know who he was being.
Exactly.
Seal in life.
Right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, dude, this has been such a thrill to talk to you. And honestly, like, the stuff you've done and you are continuing to do in your life is just like endlessly fascinating to me. And I'm really grateful.
Thanks, Jamie,
for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And, you know, if there's something we didn't cover, or if like, oh man, I got to know about this or that, just text me here on WhatsApp and I can write you back something or whatever, you know?
I appreciate that, dude. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned you're off with Weezer in Australia. I hope you have a great time, and shows are great.
Yeah. Thanks.
And yeah, man, maybe our paths will cross at some point.
I hope so. Yeah, I'll keep my eye open for you guys. And if you're ever anywhere, like I'm going out with Nine Inch Nails in the States again for 6 weeks, like February and March. But if you're over here, or see that I'm nearby, send a message on WhatsApp or something, and we can meet up, I'm sure, at some point.
Dude, that would be lovely.
Cool, Jamie. Good to talk to you, man.